So our next speaker, back in around 2016, the UK government decided that cyber threats were a thing and that they ought to have an organisation, not just the NCSC, which looks at the scientific side of the cyber world, but takes an alternative look at how can we develop and grow and find people who can work on dealing with the thing that is cyber threats. So in the spring of 2021, the UK Cyber Security Council winked into existence, and I'm delighted to tell you all about it today. We have the Chief Executive, Professor Simon Hepburn.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks very much. Okay, excellent. Let me just test this out. I thought you was going to steal all my thunder, David. I thought, oh my gosh, the whole introduction. Okay, so really good to be here. First time in Jersey. Absolute pleasure, I must say. So what I'm going to do is it's a brief presentation. Just first of all, hands up if you've heard of the UK Cyber Security Council. Excellent, excellent. Hands up if you've seen one of my presentations before. Excellent. One. Okay, good. So what I'll be doing, I will be taking you through the past, present, future. So this was based on a conversation David and I had, really to kind of update you on, want to talk about the past, of how we were established as an organisation, explain some of the things that we are doing currently, also to talk about some of the things of the future. And I'm really pleased to be here because there were some big announcements we made about 2 weeks ago, so you're able to get the absolute update. And before, people wouldn't have heard because most of the information is embargoed, okay? So just to run through then, so Simon Hepburn, Chief Executive UK Cyber Security Council. So the history basically goes back to the 2016 to 2021 National Cyber Security Strategy. So within that document, which is our previous strategy, there were some key references, and the references focused for us on two things. There needed to be an organisation that developed and accredited the cybersecurity profession, and the second point was to be a focal point in which an organisation could advise, shape and inform national policy. So that's really about being the voice for the cybersecurity profession. What was happening between really 2016 and 21, there was an awful lot of organisation, institutions, accreditation organisations, membership organisations who were having conversations with different parts of government, whether it's businesses or accreditation organisations, which was quite challenging for them. So what they wanted was an organisation that would be the conduit for those conversations. So as you all know, the National Cyber Strategy was released back in end of 2021, so that was a new strategy. The key areas that we're focused on is Pillar 1, so the UK cyber ecosystem, an objective to enhance and expand the nation's cyber skills at every level, including through a world-class and diverse cybersecurity profession that inspires and equips future talent. So that's absolutely the focal point for my organisation. So back in, basically when that was released, the strategy was released, we developed our new strategy, so our kind of vision, mission and values. So our new vision was to create a world where the whole of society is safe and secure in cyberspace. That again aligns to the strategy. And our mission was directly aligned to Objective 2, so to enhance and expand the nation's cyber skills. And as you all know, there's about 5 pillars within the national strategy, and within my organisation, we've also got pillars. So in many government strategies around that time, there's an awful lot of pillars that basically exist. So I'll take you through the 5 that is within the council. So the first one is professional standards. So that's really around creating and establishing the professional standards for the cybersecurity profession. So being really clear what that basically means. And I'll go on to what that means in relation to specialisms. The other area was around professional ethics. So very similar to other kind of occupations, and really about being clear around what's the ethical framework in which we should operate. We just heard about the dark web. So there's unethical activities taking place in that space. So what we have to ensure is there's ethical activity taking place, whether in our organisations, but also within our government departments. Careers and learning, that was around demystifying the routes into the cybersecurity profession. There's a lot of confusion around whether you've got specific qualifications or certifications. What does that mean? What does it mean if I've got a degree or master's in cybersecurity? What role is that aligned to? And how do I ultimately get into the profession? Okay, so really demystifying some of the routes in and explaining and mapping some of those qualifications and certifications. Outreach and diversity. That's very much focused on how do we engage with early talent, how do we engage with schools, how do we basically make the cybersecurity profession an occupation or a career that people are aware of. Very similar to they're aware of law, they're aware of accountancy, but we need to be aware of cybersecurity as a profession. And as a new profession, in relation to a kind of career, is it on the parents' lips in relation to year 9, choosing your options for your children and having that conversation? They won't ultimately say, in year 9, I'm choosing my options, I want to be a cybersecurity professional. So it's really about demystifying those routes. So we're engaging with schools, colleges, universities, and with parents really to explain the kind of the wider sector. And also linking to diversity, there's a report that's produced by NCSC called Decrypting Diversity. Hands up if you've ever seen the Decrypting Diversity report. No one. Interesting. Okay. So really quickly, there was a report produced by NCSC called Decrypting Diversity. It basically looked at the diversity stats comparing kind of technology, general population, people in employment, technology careers and technology field, and cybersecurity, and basically looking at gender, race, neurodiversity, etc., and looking at the stats. It's called Decrypting Diversity. Last one was produced back in 2022. So I'll give you an update on what's happening with that. But that's meant to be produced every 2 to 3 years, just to see what difference basically some of the programs that we're all doing is making in that space. We basically were holding, we had a large event. We usually have a big event in March called Elevated Women in Cyber. And it's a huge event on International Women's Day, 8th of March. So that's one of the big events we do. And then thought leadership, that's really about being in a sense, the voice of the profession. But my whole thing is that to be the voice of the profession and talk truth to power, basically in the government and government departments, you need to listen and hear what the profession is saying. So it's not just about listening, it's also about hearing and then representing those views, but also having that real conversation. And also at the same time, sometimes having that challenging conversation. It's not about just taking on board what everyone says and what the government says. It's also about pushing back and saying, actually, what you're trying to do here is actually going to create barriers for people joining the profession. So it's actually been quite robust, and we're quite good at doing that. So we have 2 key partners. So DCIT department, it was originally obviously DCMS, but now that department is now DCIT, Department of Science, Innovation and Technology. So they're our funding partner. So we've got a 3-year funding pot from DCIT. And then we work really closely with NCSC as the technical authority. So I must say, working relationships there are very good. They do lean in. So as we're developing our work and we need specific people who specialize in different areas, security architecture, audit assurance, security testing, then whether NCSC or GCHQ release staff to lean in with those developments. So working relationship is absolutely fantastic, to be honest. I have worked with many government departments in my previous careers, usually 1 or 2. It depends on what kind of work I'm in, usually Department for Work or Pensions or Department for Education. But these 2 partners have been phenomenal, to be absolutely frank. But it is part of a wider ecosystem. So we are the UK Cybersecurity Council. So we engage very much, obviously, with the nations, so Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland. We engage very much with the different departments within government and key organisations like Tech UK, etc. So that's really important in relation to making sure that we're around the table, but also having the conversations, but also finding out what's happening, because the different nations work in slightly different ways. So ensuring what we're developing that feeds into what we're doing as an organisation. Part of our thought leadership is just to show, where we are, only 2 years on, because originally we was originally founded back in March 2021, so really just over 2 years, 2.5 years now. So where we are in relation to some of our thought leadership work and influence and work. So we've got something called the Government and Cyber Council Liaison Committee. What that is, when I first started, for the first year, I was engaging an awful lot with different government departments, 15 to 20, having basically the same conversation around it, and that was usually based on where they've got their cyber team, who were developing things around early talent, who were developing work around the skills framework, who were developing work around how to secure their systems. But it was the same conversation again and again and again. So really what we wanted to do is establish one group and liaison committee where all of the representatives, which could be CISOs for those government departments, and ourselves having the conversations strategically around what they're doing within their department and how we need to share or model best practice. And there is, let's be up, from our perspective, some really good work taking place in some government departments. Really, really good work taking place. So it's, again, around, I'm sure you all know that different government departments, sometimes they actually work in silos. So but it's important they actually work together and share some of that best practice. So we do a lot of that coordination. Then that's headed by the Cabinet Office. Cyber Scotland, so they've got a partnership, so we're engaged there, so I sit on that board. My chair, Claudia Nathanson, is part of the National Cyber Advisory Board, which was the board that was established as part of the National Cyber Strategy. I'm part of a Home Office advisory group. CyBOC, hands up if you're aware of CyBOC, the Cyber Body of Knowledge. Okay, excellent, okay. So CyBOC, the Cyber Body of Knowledge, that's owned by NCSC, and that's run through the University of Bristol. It's a cyber body of knowledge which is based on national or global experts who develop key what they call knowledge areas around cyber security. So it's really around that kind of theoretical frameworks that underpins cyber security knowledge. Okay, so and that's run at the University of Bristol, so I'm on a steering group there. And then cyber growth is something run through Tech UK with a minister who basically chairs and their chief exec who chairs that group. And that's really about how do we grow cybersecurity on a national but also international level. Okay, so that's some of the kind of key thought leadership forums that we're involved in. One of the things that came out of some of the pre-work to the council was around around demystifying the routes into the profession. Was cybersecurity is not homogenous and it's not one singular skill, as you know, because you've all got your own knowledge and skills in different areas. So whether that is based on digital forensics, security testing, data analysis, secure operations, there's different core areas. So what came out of that piece of work was there was 16 core cybersecurity specialisms. Okay, so it's not just generalist and one, but 16. I will bring you up to date with what some of the work we're doing on this. This is the most visited web page on our website, and when I first joined the organisation, all of the kind of content was, because it was developed obviously by practitioners, was quite, I must say, mature. It wasn't for a younger audience, so it wasn't for people that weren't in the profession, so it wasn't really accessible. So a lot of the work that we've been doing is, that's absolutely fine, but we also need to make it accessible for people who's not in the profession or practitioners to understand what does that mean by incident response, what does that mean by security testing. So we've done a lot of work on that. So do visit that on our website. So every year, DSIT, Department of Science and Innovation and Tech, working with Ipsy Mori, basically produce something called the Cyber Skills and Labour Market. And it's interesting, I think, some of the key stats, and this is some of the things that we basically will focus on, some of the key stats there is that currently, based on how many people are in the profession, who then leave the profession, people who come out of university, graduates who then join the profession, when you do the and takeaways, subtractions, then you ultimately end up with got a skills shortage of about 11,000 in the UK currently. That's based on it's this year's report, but it's based on last year's stats. But globally, that's about 3.4 million based on the reports, some of the international reports. In businesses, 50% of businesses say they have a basic skills gap. Okay, so for people in relation to cybersecurity skills and knowledge. And in larger businesses, there's about 33% a more advanced skills gap, looking at particular areas, security architecture, penetration testing, and forensic analysis. Okay, so you can see some of the challenges that we currently have within the profession. Working in cyber, there's about 61% say they're basically generalists. So when you're looking at our cybersecurity specialisms, then we've got cybersecurity generalist, and I'll update you where we're doing some work on that currently. Management, 43%, and audit and assurance, 42%. So it changes year on year, but to be frank, those figures don't change that much. And the key one there is generalist. But the question is, what constitutes a generalist in cybersecurity? Okay. And then when you look at some of the diversity stats, 22% of the total cyber workforce, based on this report and the one from NCSC, is from ethnic minorities. 17%, I should say women, I do apologise, of the total workforce there is women. 12% of the workforce is neurodivergent, and 7% is workforce is disabled. Okay, so that's based on this year's report released by DSIT. We constantly talk about the different routes into the profession, and I think what's quite interesting is there is what we call the linear route, and there's a more technical one for the one on the right we call the squiggly route in. So the linear route is basically based on academia. So you do your GCSEs, you do your A-levels, you go to university, then you get a graduate opportunity, and you continue working. Most of the CISOs and global CISOs that I've met, they didn't go that route. Many didn't actually come from computing or tech backgrounds. They've come from different areas, whether law enforcement or vets or programs around different kind of graduate programs, or sometimes worked in business or accountancy, law, etc. So what's interesting is sometimes, I won't say they've fell into this, but it's been a gradual route into the profession. There might be risk specialists in a completely different area. So for many of the people I kind of engage with, their route into the profession was on the right. So one of the things we've done on our website is we've got something called role models, and whether that's young people or more experienced individuals, just talking about their route into the profession. And it's really important that there's diverse routes in, so it's important we kind of showcase that to the both wider professional people that's interested in the profession. We use, I often get asked a question just around how, in relation to the work we're doing on standards development, based on our standards development are based on those 16 specialisms. So based on that, what are the frameworks that we're using, and how does it align to international standards, how does it align to different frameworks? So the frameworks, there's an awful lot out there, an awful lot, but the ones we're actually focused on is obviously linking into America, the NIST cybersecurity framework, ANISA in relation to the kind of Europe framework that feeds in, Sophia as a skills framework, and a cyber body of knowledge, what they call the knowledge areas as part. So those four are the core lexicons we use as part of all the developments we do. So whether that's based on our standards development or our career and learning, which is called career mapping work. So that's the kind of four key specialisms. Yes, there's an awful lot we could use, and how does it link to ISO 27001? How does it... You have to basically start somewhere, and these, if you said, what are the macro ones, these are the macro ones that we've started off with. Okay, so it's part of that baseline. Back in November 21, we through the Privy Council, we attained a royal chartership status, and that's the Privy Council ultimately signed off by the Queen at that time. So we've got royal charter status, and that's on 2 levels, okay? And it's really important to explain the differential. There's 2 levels of chartership. There's one where you could be a chartered organisation, okay? So that's the whole organisation is chartered, and you can say we're a royal chartered organisation, etc. The other one is where you're a chartered organisation, and in secondary, you're a chartered organisation that can bestow charterships to individuals, okay? Is a big difference. So what we are as an organisation is the only organisation in the world that can charter individuals in cybersecurity. Individuals, okay? It's really, really important. So we've got 3 professional titles, charter, principal, and associate, and we've been working with organisations around developing and working through a pilot to develop the assessment criteria to achieve those professional titles, and I'll take you through what they are in a moment. And then underneath that, what we've been looking at is based on there's, CISM, so there's loads of different qualifications and certifications, and then we map those to see where they are aligned to in relation to the knowledge areas, not the experience areas, but the knowledge areas, okay? And then obviously higher education qualifications and apprenticeships. So what we got signed off is called the SPCC, but what we got signed off by the Privy Council, and it has to align to other charterships from other professions. So the assessment criteria is based on what we call A to E. So A, which is a more fundamental kind of weight, and about 60%, is technical knowledge, skills, and experience. So when people go through an assessment of a professional title, what they work through, the first part is competency A. You have to get competency A first before you can basically do B to E, okay? So for example, where we're looking at something like security testing, that would be working somewhere like a cyber scheme, Crest, going through their rig and achieving that certification, okay? That would give us confidence that you could meet competency A. And then you basically go through B to E based on a peer review assessment, okay? So that's how that basically that works in relation to the process. So bringing it up to date, so what we've recently done, and again, before, 3 weeks ago, I couldn't have fed back on this, so you're getting a complete update, to be honest. So where we are, we've basically had pilots on several areas working with specific organisations, so governance and risk, secure systems architecture, and audit and assurance. Those pilots have completed. We worked with organisations on them, carrying out the assessments. They put some individuals through the process. 1, to test the process, but 2, to test what we call the contextualisation. And the contextualisation is how do you achieve the assessment process for each of those 3 professional titles, okay? So we've done that. Security testing, that we're using 2 models to test this one. So one is based on a peer review model. Again, the competency A, which is the skills and knowledge, technical knowledge, is basically based on an exam with specific organisations. So that covers the first part. So we're at the moderation stage there. So where they've put several individuals through that process, we're currently moderating to ensure and to give, what we have to do is give assurance back to UK government. Okay, so we're doing the moderations currently, and then we'll report back on what the outcome of that is. And we're at the end of that stage, but I can't announce it until we've basically announced it back to some government departments. The other one is called attestation. So we're working through what we call a methodology review. So what that is, we're working with another organisation around an attestation model, which is, there's a hypothesis that sits behind this. But ultimately, you know, there's a peer review model where you have an interview and a conversation. There's an attestation model where someone signs off that you can do. We're going to see what the outcome of that is before we kind of share what whether that works or not. There's some interesting views. Some people think it's going to work, others think absolutely not. But we'll see where that one lands. So, but you will be hearing announcements around the organisations that will be leading and moving that forward. Phase 2, so the ones we're currently working on is secure system development, secure operations, and incident response, and generalist. Okay, so with the first 3, we're doing onboard, so we've got specific partners. Usually we partner with about 2 organisations as part of the contextualisation work. So that's basically, again, about building the assessment criteria for the professional titles. So we're onboarding those organisations and we're doing the contextualisation workshops. And with the cybersecurity generalist, we've done the contextualisation work, so now that's basically under review. And so we will be then commissioning that out for either pilot or maybe a test year. So that's where we are currently. That's our next kind of phase. I think this week, actually, I think Monday, we launched something called a Cyber Careers Hub. So this links very much into our kind of 13 to 19, so our outreach activities. So really, this is more for young people. So it's about young people understanding the different routes into the profession, things around T-levels, obviously T-levels, apprenticeships, careers opportunities, etc. So that's really important. A lot of work's gone into that. We've worked with young people in schools and colleges to produce. So it's a lot more younger and dynamic, etc. But it's really about engaging with that younger age group. Some key updates. So in relation to our 16 cybersecurity specialism, we're currently reviewing them because I think even from the day that I started back in September 21, there's been some strong views. On one side, there's actually 22 cybersecurity specialisms, and another view that there's only 10. Okay, so we've carried out a review, and really, and again, because based on the links to obviously NICE standards and the ANISA standards, etc., because they were also going through reviews, it was important we've got that appropriate alignment. So what we don't want to do is constantly just expand. So if we can shrink, because there was a very strong view, if you said I wouldn't say a lot of the noise, but there's a very strong view, there's only between 10 and 12 cybersecurity specialisms, and if there's only 10, then the other 6 are skills or key activities that sits in one of the core. Okay, so there's a very strong view of that. So that's some work that's been done, and again, we're just putting that through moderation currently. We will continue to raise the profile of cybersecurity as a profession and also the work of the council. So obviously I do a lot of the kind of external facing work, so presentations, meeting with government departments, etc. So there's a lot of work taking place there. There's a lot of work between ourselves and NCSC. So CCP, anyone that went through the CCP program? Nope. Oh, one, I see one, okay. So CCP is run by NCSC, so it was the Certified Cyber Professional Program, so that's one of the programs that is transitioning to ourselves as the council. Another one is CyBOC, so CyBOC, Cyber Body of Knowledge, was also a program ultimately run by NCSC. That's another program that's transitioning to the council. So, and there's other programs that was actually a meeting yesterday morning around other programs that we're exploring. I'm currently working through a due diligence process on 2 levels. 1, to make sure the financial modelling is right, but 2, to make sure it's fit for purpose for us to deliver against our public benefit, because we are also a charity. So, so we're having conversations on other programmes transitioning to the council. Some may come, but my board and I may decide that they also won't come. So we'll see where those land, but really good conversations. And the other role for us is really, it's important as an organisation that we exactly what I just said about a dark web, that we, and especially Cyber Essentials, that we promote and highlight and amplify good cyber hygiene to all that we basically engage with. So we've achieved Cyber Essentials Plus, Cyber Essentials in our first year, Cyber Essentials Plus in our second year. So we're pleased. So in a sense, we have to walk the talk. I think that's really important for us as an organisation. 2 weeks ago, we had an event at NCSC in London, central London. So this was the first, this is only some of the members, but the first cohort of individuals who were successful throughout the pilot program. And most of these are chartered, but you've got chartered, mainly chartered and principal. There are a few associates there as well. So this was an event that we basically had at NCSC's London office. This was in the afternoon. Earlier that afternoon, we actually had a meeting. I haven't got a photograph of that one, but we had a meeting with all of the regulators, okay? So Ofcom, Ofgem, Bank of England, FCA, etc., etc. And that was really, I can't share too much because obviously it was a confidential meeting, but there will be an announcement coming out around that. But it just I would just say it was a very positive meeting, because there was a consultation back in January 22 on whether the cybersecurity profession should be regulated. Okay, the outcome of that was from the profession, no, and the government response was okay, not for now. So the next kind of stage, so it's not so much about we're going back to regulation, but it's about how do we then work with regulators to kind of support our mission and the importance of the professionalisation of the profession. So so you can see, and again, there will be an announcement around that work and what we're going to be doing together in relation to regulators, but it's a very, very productive meeting. So anyone interested in the professional titles, again, it's all on our website. Obviously, express your interest, whether associate principal or chartered. It explains what the process is, and it highlights the different current opportunities that basically exist in relation to those key specialism areas. I'm not sure, I'm just checking on my timing. So yeah, so if you express your interest there, and then we will obviously locate that with the appropriate organisation. And there will be announcements around the organisations we're working with, and how to fully apply directly for ourselves or through those organisations. We've got a strategy, Chartering the Cyber Future Strategy 2012, again on our website. We are refreshing that because some of the work that we've done over that was launched last September. So I do like to do a strategy refresh. So I'm going to be working on that, and that should be out in the new year. But the current version is available on our website. I always say we have a small organisation. I've got 14 members of staff. We can only achieve our core objectives by working together. So it is for us about connecting the different parts of the jigsaw. We are a new organisation. This is a new professional career in comparison to many of the others. So it is very much around the kind of laying the tracks as we go. And I always say that we have to be very agile as an organisation and the individuals in my organisation, but we have to kind of lay those tracks, and sometimes we'll be laying the tracks, but we actually need to put a station in to pause, to reflect, to look at what we need to do next, okay? So we do move at pace, and some people struggle with the pace, I'm sure, but it's important that we do that, but also we need to get people on board. And also, we are a new profession, and there has been some people in the profession for many years, and organisations and institutions, and who like the status quo. So we do get some pushback. Okay? And I'm fine with that. I've got broad shoulders, I'm fine with the pushback, but my ultimate objective is what's best for the profession, what's best for the careers, and what's best for UK PLC. Okay? So that's that's the core driver. So do check us out, website, LinkedIn, Twitter, or is it X now, if I keep it up to date, if I keep it young, up to date. But do check us out, all the information is online, and thank you very much, and happy to answer any questions. How long have I got? Okay.
Any questions for Simon? We have a few minutes, so please shout if you do. Andre.
I'll start with a really awkward one up front.
Yeah.
No change there.
Absolutely fine.
So start out with the declaration. I'm one of the fellows and founders of the Chartered Institute.
Of?
Chartered Institute of Information Security Professionals.
CISEC? Yeah.
So, even amongst the fellows, there's a lot of confusion about where the line will be drawn between the Chartered Institute and the Council. Even Dr. Gardner's been a little bit vague on that subject over the past couple of days. Is there any light you can spread on that? I mean, we know about the chartering status. We're all keen to get ourselves up and running with that.
Yeah.
We've all gone through our fellowships with very, very similar process, because I know that I helped to draw up some of the original documentation around what the partnership would look like.
Yeah.
Where are we? How is that going together? Where's the lines drawn? And how are these things going to work together?
Right, okay. I can answer that directly. So as a fellow, are you aware, so I just shared, so where we currently are, so one of the organisations, just to share, as part of the pilot programme was CISEC, so I'm sure you're aware of that. So where we basically are, so we've signed contracts. Are you aware we signed contracts or not? Okay, so this is CISEC's internal comms, because where we basically are is that we've signed contracts with CISEC, we'll be making formal announcements, and CISEC was one of the pilot organisations, a part of the free audit and assurance, risk and security architecture. So they will be opening up post the event we basically had at Nova 2 weeks ago. So we'll be kind of making that wider announcement that we're open for business. Yeah, but that I would have thought that would have been communicated to fellows automatically, because quite a few of the fellows have gone through. So it's not a challenging question at all. I think the worker relationship, we sign contracts, worker relationship is absolutely, great, good from my perspective, and it's all working in the same direction. And I think there was a lot of work, I think, just to get the contextualization right. And I think it was IC Squared, which has now changed their names, but IC Squared and SciSec were involved in the pilot one, which was the kind of first phase activities. So, but what we've had to do is to make sure it works for the wider profession. So there's a lot of other people that are involved in the NCC group, GCHQ, etc. But yeah, does that answer your question?
It sort of goes part of that way. What we're looking for as fellows is for to drag the membership into full professionalism.
Yeah.
All professionals in their own right, but hardly recognised as such
Yeah.
in the global, and wider community.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, yeah, absolutely. So because there's only 3 charterships that's going to be open in the next week, and then we're doing security testing after the moderation. So I think there's that. I think not just SciSec, but I will share openly that one of the, when I say the challenges, and we've had to do a lot of pushback on, is that where some organisations have fellows or their top qualification or certification or membership, some organisations wanted that as auto-chartership. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? So we're a member at this level or we're a fellow, so that means, and the answer to that was no. And the reason it was no, because you have to go through an assessment, because the assessment has to be based on the specific specialism, security, architecture, risk, etc. So you can imagine some of the conversations and the discourse to make sure that, because again we have to provide assurance, to make sure that, yes, that might be accredited prior learning experience because of that, but we have to sometimes do like what we've done with CCP, then a top-up, just to make sure and have that conversation to assure at the competency skill level that's taken place. So I think what will happen, especially when SciSec completely opens up, a lot of the fellows who want to, if the specialisms that are released are the ones that they've got the experience in, they may wait for generalist or they may wait for secure ops when that one basically comes live. So it depends on what the specialism is for the fellow member to when they basically jump on. That's right.
Discussion and an assurance piece.
Yeah.
To make sure that we are, I mean, there's a very limited number of fellows.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the last count, about 120 or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we've all gone through that process. We've all gone through the assurance process.
Yeah.
We've all gone through the assessment process already. So top up that.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you, Andre. Did I see a hand over Colin's way there? We've got time for one more question from Simon. In the corner here.
Could you say how many universities you've accredited for competency A?
How many universities?
Yes.
No, we don't accredit universities. So there is something called the
competency A is for the academic side, or the...
No, not the academic. No, it's for the competency A is for the technical knowledge and experience, and that's based on a peer review. So what somebody will have to then do is to have a conversation with somebody. What we basically have is, I didn't show the structure, but what we've got is something called the TAP, which is Technical Advisory Panel. So what they basically do is assess assessors to make sure they have the technical knowledge and expertise. So it's not based on an academic, it's basically based on, are you competent to do this job and do you know what you're doing? Because I think there's a difference between the knowledge base, which sometimes is based on a certification or kind of academia, and actually doing the job. Okay. What there is, just to say on that, are people aware of academic centres of excellence in education and research? Okay, so NCSC has a programme, academic centres of excellence in cyber education, which is about 7 or 8 universities. Again, this is all on their website, and these are universities that has gone through an assessment criteria using cyber body of knowledge to say that these are the knowledge areas in which they're basically delivering on. So there's academic centres of excellence in education, and then academic centres of excellence in research. So usually the academic route is based on people working through that process. But happy to come have conversations after if I'm running over.
No, absolutely spot on.
Okay.
Professor Simon Hepburn, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.